Yo, welcome back, Calls and Strikes. We got a packed show tonight. We're tonight, whatever. We're gonna get you out in, we hope, like 15 minutes. But we have some big topics. We have some good news. Let's just hit the DeMar Hamlin. Recovered, doing better, back in Buffalo. Great news. We don't want to leave that stale out
Big
there,
time.
but we're moving on. So we're gonna go to one of the things that pairs best with athletics, professional athletics. Amateur athletics too. We got a lot of younger athletes watching. Beer. People aren't drinking as much anymore. I got some blame, and I think it's partially your fault.
Uh-oh.
And then there's like big news that's gonna be progressing over the next year. You know, we have to decide whether or not athletes are employees. If you're if you're in the NCAA and you're pretty much working a job, are you gonna get paid like an employee? Do you get the benefits of an employee? We're gonna dig into that. So let's talk about the beer. So here's my premise is that, back in the day when we had real athletes, unlike, I see the way you eat, dude. It's like white rice. It looks like bland chicken with no seasoning. It looks good, by the way. I wouldn't eat that, but like if I had to eat it, I'd probably want your wife to cook for me. However, but back in the day, like when we had real men as athletes, you would crank down like 40 beers on a cross-country flight,
pre-workout.
light, smoke a couple cigs before you hit, the warm-ups and stuff like
darts.
that. You probably hit like 2 for 3, take a walk, and then you go repeat the cycle until you retired. And so I feel like there's a lot of, beer that used to be drank by athletes. Now, like I said, the diet is soft. No one, you drink Powerade, you drink water.
Yeah.
Water.
And even then they're limiting, like they're watching what you put into your body. So like I when I played for the Twins, right, they pumped money. Like their thing was nutrition.
Yeah.
They wanted to have the best nutrition. They had an insane food room. And they had chefs, like gourmet meals left and right. They had specialized drinks, right? They didn't want you to have too much sugar, right? They would present the athlete, the player, with top-notch stuff.
Well, no cigarettes, though. So how are you able to maintain focus and really draw down and see the way pitches were moving?
There are chewless forms of tobacco.
So was that allowed, though? That's a question I have for you, because I know that I got a buddy that used to work in the dugout here locally, and so like he was working right when they were transitioning. You had to put that in big league chew. You couldn't get in trouble. I mean, I know people still.
So there's something that they call dip police, right? And they preach it from my first year on to my last year, and they said there are dip police at every major league game. Right? There are people in the stands or like in the locker room or whatever. They'll go through your locker room and they'll look to see if there's dip out in the open. Yep. And if there is, like in your locker, you'll get hit with a notification.
What's the notification? Does that cost
So
them
I think
scratch?
the first strike is you have to go to a class for addiction.
Oh.
Which is crazy. But the second one is you start getting banged for real life money.
Okay.
Like you start getting hit with money.
Well, I joke. Obviously, it's not. Beer has gone through, like, we were doing the IPA microbrewery thing, and the Bud Lights and Buds were main sponsors. I mean, throughout professional athletics, they kind of fell off, and just people aren't drinking as much beer. So it's not athletes' fault, but you bring up a really good point. So, not necessarily about being addicted to chewing tobacco, but responsible. So being responsible as an athlete.
In soccer, right? The World Cup, didn't they bang the...
That was a big deal.
Alcohol?
Yeah, Qatar's. They're like, no, we don't like. So in the stadium, though, so they had like little mini camps set up where if you had too much, they'd sit you down, not arrest you, because there's a lot of, foreign travel. They don't want to make it,
makes sense.
I don't know, a diplomatic thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, they cut down, on in stadium alcohol consumption completely. So it was, the hooligans did not like that whatsoever. So
yeah, it's.
No complaints afterwards. It's going to be remembered as one of the greatest World Cups in memory. At least
tough.
Yeah, so
that is tough.
Hey, so guys, my background, I've been in all 3 major sports locker rooms, work with ESPN and such. And baseball.
That's a problem too. I mean, you've been arrested all 3 times.
Yes.
You think you would
baseball, football, basketball. Baseball is the only sport that I've seen players drink a beer at the end of the game in the locker room.
Really?
They don't have that.
Artest used to pound Hennessy at halftime, but he was a unique bird.
But like to literally have like you said, there's a food room right there in the locker room of Major League Baseball in your home locker.
Yeah.
They don't have that in the NBA. They don't have that
Really?
in the NFL. They get food when they leave, like an NFL game. It's like a to-go, a pizza, or whatever.
But they don't have 6 types of beer on tap.
No.
Huh.
It's definitely
It's
a baseball
probably,
thing.
yeah, it's a grueling. See, I guess, baseball's 162
But you're
games,
also
so.
there all day.
Absolutely.
Baseball, you live at the stadium. I think we were talking about
Yeah,
that,
we
and
were.
you're talking about there's nap rooms.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Depending on what team you play for, they'll have nap rooms. Minnesota was big. Nelson Cruz. I'm not going to say Nelson Cruz was with me. I was with Nelson Cruz at that time, and Nelson was pretty adamant about getting his naps, and I think he was like 39 or 40 at that time.
So sleep is one of the other things too. So we talked about like health and exercise. I joke it is good to exercise if you're a professional athlete or aspire to be one, but the sleep monitoring is huge,
Big
and especially like NBA. I mean, like you're playing at 7, so you're not on the same circadian cycle as the average Joe. So
yeah, and the technology now to monitor your sleep, your REM cycle, right? What you need specifically. Like they have these bands now, right? I forget what the name of the bands are, but I mean, people are wearing rings and shit now.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
People are. I mean, everything's tracked.
So you gotta be a little bit more conscious. The partying, hopefully, it's responsible. I mean, there's, we got a lot of college football guys that talk to you, and so like there's a high profile case. I mean, like Henry Ruggs was what 2 years ago, 8th overall, world. I mean,
2020.
super nice kid too. So like Tua came to his defense. Jalen Hurts came to his defense. I couldn't believe it happened to this kid, but he had too much to drink. And he had a cool Corvette, and he was bossing around late at night and didn't hit the brakes.
plus.
Yeah, it was it was a great story. He killed someone, and
And their dog.
Yeah, the NFL we talk about it, yeah, and the dog, and it wasn't from the accident. They like burned to death in the car. It's a terrible story, but the NFL contract is fairly bulletproof. I mean, you get guaranteed money, and then there's some that you can earn. NBA and MLB. Pretty much guaranteed. I mean, but there are circumstances where you could lose that money, and that is one. I mean, that cost him. He didn't collect barely a quarter of what they promised him. That's guaranteed money, and it doesn't matter about the money. That's what we talk about. But
yeah,
I mean, he might be in jail for a significant amount of time. He's got to carry that weight.
I'll tell you what, dude. Yeah, that's crazy. That's a lot of money to forfeit, right? But if I'm driving drunk, double the alcohol limit, and I crash and kill somebody, I expect to be locked up.
Yeah.
I expect to have everything, upended. It's unfortunate.
So the moral is don't drive drunk, especially, and that's not the time to hot rod.
For sure, man. You play stupid games, you win stupid prizes.
Right.
No, disrespect to anybody that I'm not supposed to be disrespecting, but if the more you F around, the more you find out.
Yep.
Unfortunately.
But doesn't that go back to nothing good happens, what they say, after midnight, after 2 a.m., whatever time?
Yeah, but nothing fun happens before. So
that is true.
I don't want to be like.
But as an athlete, if you think about
guy.
LeBron James has protected his brand by not going out at night. He sits at home. He has his parties at home, obviously. I mean, I don't think he's that lame.
Yeah.
But that's how he's protected his brand. He doesn't get in trouble. That's kind of important for like college athletes to remember. You got to protect your brand. You got to think about who you're out with.
For sure.
What you're doing.
And especially, because the goal line has moved up, those were concerns when you became a professional, and now the NIL has creeped into college athletics, and we're going to go here next, but like, it's you don't mature when you're 22 now. I mean, in some states you can be taking NIL deals when you're in high school, and like you're leaving college quicker. I mean, you're enrolling in college quicker, and so it's easy for us to sit back and we're boring lame people like you said. I mean, it's easy for us to say, hey, like don't go out and have fun. You got a brand to think about, but it's hard, when you're 17, 18, like that's what you do.
Yeah,
when you're
you're
17, 18,
you're
have
in the
fun.
moment, man.
I mean, it wasn't long ago you were a professional athlete, but you went out and enjoyed life, right, at night?
I did.
Did you ever think about the consequences?
So me going out and enjoying life at night consisted of different things, right?
Yeah,
My fun's
it's
different.
Wide descriptor, yeah.
But, I would be what's the word I'm looking for? Where I criticize somebody, but I do the same thing. what's that word?
Hypocrite.
Hypocrite.
Yeah.
I'd be a hypocrite if I didn't say that I didn't, for lack of a better term, fuck around when I was younger, right? But I got that out of my system before I stepped into, the professional ranks, right? Which kind of leads into
Right.
Dude, I have played with, I got a list right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I played with a dude, two left-handed pitchers in the minor leagues that just couldn't stop drinking. Like, I couldn't stop drinking. Go out and they would just come in the next morning, cuts back. There was a guy, used his throwing arm. He was a left-handed pitcher, and he was hashtag blessed, dude, like mid-nines from the left, both of these guys. And I think he got drunk one night. We were in spring training or instructs or something like that. And he was down the street and he just punched through a window and just cut up like bad. Had to go to the emergency room, stitches, the whole nine, and like he gone.
Yeah.
Right. You got insane talent, but teams aren't gonna just right. Look at Ruggs. Right. How much money did he sign for?
So it got to be $20 million. 8 picks. Sorry, it's 2 years ago. I don't have it all committed.
That's it. They'll dude, we'll separate. Like, you don't want to follow the rules and you want to bring negative attention, like, whoop, right? There's plenty of, people that have unfortunately done stuff like that. The stories are insane. There's plenty of, I had a guy that guy from Cuba sexually assaulted a maid in our hotel, our team hotel. Maid came in to clean the room, and he tried to force himself on her. That was to the extent that it went. He was on a flight the next day.
Back to Cuba?
I don't know where he was going, dude, but they didn't want him.
Yeah, no.
And I don't blame him. I mean, I get it, dude.
So that our second thing we're going to be covering today is NCAA student athletes. Are they employees? Like other kids at school are on scholarships, and they work jobs, and they get paid for those jobs. So the NIL is a back channel to get people paid for other things. It's like marketing and stuff. But like, when you go put on the pads, you just, if you're a Georgia player or TCU player, the cost of that event that you contributed to generate a lot of revenue from that. Should you get a piece of that? Should you at least get like a minimum wage? Like if you're on an academic scholarship and you work in the library, you're getting paid there. That's W-2 money. Should you get something?
Yeah.
Should you be
at
all?
In my experience, regardless of what the rules said, like the bigger time athletes, they got something. They got something regardless, right?
Should they have to pay taxes on it?
Do they pay tax on the NIL money?
Yeah, absolutely.
What's the difference?
Well, who's paying it? Is it the institution?
So they're benefiting from these dudes, right? Or these women as well.
But they're getting the old refrain, they're getting the free education that is so sought after, for an NFL person. Like, they need to learn how to stretch, exercise.
Yeah, dude. Nothing is free. Somebody's paying some. So if they're deemed employees, right? If they decide that they're employees, that means that they can unionize.
You're getting right to
which is huge.
Yeah.
And I know that firsthand because I was just a regular baseball player, but when we started going through the pandemic and stuff, right? And I needed people to fight for me and my rights because I don't know what the hell's going on, right? Yeah. I'm just going. I just work here. You know what I mean? I'll go wherever I'm directed. But we're shut down. We're in a lockdown. Like, who's going to fight for me? That's when these union guys come in, right? The Major League Baseball Players Association, they fight for the guys. So it would be if they're deemed employees, right? They'll be able to unionize and improve their conditions, their wages, their pay. Will it happen? This isn't just happening now, right? So this has been submitted and touched on.
It's working its way, Johnson versus NCAA, and I don't think it's we'll be talking about it more, and specifically us, but everyone will be talking about it more over the next year, and there probably is going to be some sort of. It doesn't have to work its way through the courts too. The NCAA could just say, "Hey, they're employees now." It could be legislation. There's a couple of different ways this thing can resolve itself. But like going with that, so if everyone unionizes, is it just the money? Sports, football and basketball subsidize pretty much all the rest of them in college, with some caveats. But are we talking about women swimming?
No. So, dude, I had this written down. All right. So the NCPA, the National College Players Association, their goal, let me look back down here, is to affirm employee status for Division I basketball, men and women's.
Okay.
And FBS, so D1 football.
Okay.
Right? I mean, what about everybody else? They're putting in hours.
Right.
They're putting in the same hours. Dude.
What's funny, you say D1. Does that include Akron U?
They're Division I.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because I always think Division I football is very odd to me.
Regardless of if they're the bottom of the barrel or it's
well,
for one and for all.
Yeah, so the guy that goes to Alabama.
Yeah, well, no,
let's
talk about
the guy at
superstar.
Akron U.
Well, that's what a union is, right?
I know.
You're submitting to the
but
will
that's
of,
very interesting because Akron U ain't making money like Alabama.
Well, and then I would just go one segment further. Like everyone on Alabama is functionally a star in Georgia, but like Bryce Young is going to be submitting his money. Like there are probably going to be some rules for the greater good. Why would the superstars who are already getting paid? Why are they going to?
Yeah, but you mentioned like, do they have to pay minimum wage?
Right.
If Kent State has to pay a minimum wage to their Division I basketball and football, will they just cut those programs? Can they even afford to pay them minimum wage?
Well, I mean, those are probably self-sustaining.
They generate the revenue the most. Is
well,
what my understanding is.
But
like you can't just make these rules for certain athletes and then.
Well, there's a lot of leeway. I would just, as far as I know, we didn't dig into the numbers, but the whole athletic department program. We have Title IX considerations, all 20 boys programs and all 20 girls. They're pretty much paid by football and in some cases basketball. But that's where the revenue is. The TV money funnels through there, and there's some revenue sharing with like the bowl, BCS, whatever's going to be playoff bowls. But like women's field hockey, that's paid for by football. I mean, all the kids, and this is another, like we've talked about this in the past. I mean, like Bryce Young, Alabama, they're putting hundreds of other kids through school, and so should they get paid for that? Should they get compensated? What would happen, if that's jeopardized? It's not affecting the football and bat. They're self-sustaining. It affects everyone else. And
but they are also not paying for shit when they step on campus, right? So those big names, they're top of the top. They're not paying for anything.
But we have so in basketball especially, it's like we've dictated that they can't go earn. It's not a free market. They got to be 1 year removed from high school. Most of the kids, I mean, like anyone that's 18 and a top 10 pick right now, he could have, in theory, be making tens of millions of dollars right now. But we've said, no, you have to go to college or Australia or, NBA.
I mean, this whole NIL thing just, I mean, it's going to open up a whole lot.
Yeah.
So like I mean, how are you going to pay somebody here and not pay somebody there, right? Dude, it's a whole box of work.
Yeah, we'll see how it shakes out.
I'd love for them to be able to pay everybody, right? If everybody's putting in the same time as everybody else and putting up the same results as everybody else, I mean, I believe we have a problem there. Right? I mean, they have a right to be outraged.
Yeah.
I guess, in my opinion.
So we'll come back to that one. That's
I'm sure that's going to develop
Yeah.
over time a little bit more.
No, it's cool. I mean, we talk to kids too, and it's it's mostly basketball and football, and so thankfully you're able to monetize yourself a little bit nowadays. The rules are fluid though. I mean, like there's
jersey sales.
Yeah,
you touched on that. We were talking about it a little bit yesterday. I mean, if Ohio State is selling my jersey, and it's a hot commodity, and they're making a boatload of money, I mean, that's my jersey. That's my name, dude. What?
Name, image, and likeness.
I get it.
Yep.
I get it, man.
Alrighty. Well, hey, thanks for joining us once again. We look forward to catching up with you next week. Prince, you got anything else to say?
That's all I got, man. Appreciate you guys
Peace
tuning
out,
in.
y'all.